Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video I want to share my perspective on training with groundwork and liberty and explain the difference between the two. I also dive deeper into the communication between human and horse, the mental and emotional layers involved, and what this way of working means to me. Instead of following a specific training process, this video focuses on the bigger picture, connection, awareness, and mutual understanding. The training process of Ziva and Gina I'll save for another video. The difference between groundwork and liberty. Let's start by explaining the difference between groundwork and liberty. In my case, I began with both horses using groundwork. Doing groundwork, you usually work with a lead rope, which limits the horse's freedom of movement. In this phase, you mainly practice communication between you and your horse. By communication, I mean that the horse learns to respond to your body language, voice commands, and energy. The word energy might sound a bit vague, but let me explain what I mean by that. What I mean by that is that the horse often senses perfectly what we are asking, and sometimes even what we are not asking, but what we are unconsciously communicating. That's why it's important for us as humans to be aware of ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings and emotions. We can learn to regulate, filter, and consciously direct what we do and do not want to convey. Horses live fully in the moment. For us humans, this is often much harder, which can lead us to unintentionally mix other emotions or thoughts into our communication. This can be confusing for the horse, even if we don't mean it that way. That's why it's important to be clear and consistent with both ourselves and the horse. At the same time, horses are incredibly good in mirroring. They respond not only to what we ask, but also how we feel inside and what we eradicate. This can make working with horses confronting, but also incredibly educational. What I've learned over the years is that communication always goes both ways. We communicate to the horse, but the horse communicates back to us just as much. Horses constantly give signals and try to tell us something, both physically and mentally. I've also learned that horses often respond less to the exercise itself and more to the intention behind it. Are you trying to force something, or are you inviting the horse to think along? Horses sense this difference immediately. By repeating certain exercises regularly, you'll notice that the bond, trust, and mutual understanding grow. When this foundation is strong enough, you can move on to the liberty work. In liberty, you work without a lead rope and in complete freedom with your horse. You can use tools to teach them exercises, such as a whip. The whip is not a punishment tool, but simply an extension of your arm to signal something. You understand that liberty places a much greater emphasis on connection and communication between you and your horse. For me, liberty is also about learning to let go of control. Not wanting to direct everything, but learning to trust the connection that already exists. This can be confronting, but it's where I find the most growth. In liberty, the horse always has a choice. And because of that choice, their yes means so much more. It shows that they are not following because they must, but because they understand and feel safe. Starting with groundwork and then moving to liberty. There are countless different groundwork exercises and they can vary greatly. For example, having your horse follow you on a lead rope right next to you, or at a little distance, or at a greater distance, and the latter is called lunging. Other examples include walking over a tarp, stepping over poles, waving through cones, or moving backwards. More dressage-oriented exercises, such as yielding, small circles, passage, and piaffe, can be also taught from the ground. Often the first step is to teach these exercises using a lead rope, starting with groundwork. Once both the horse and the human understand the exercise, you can move on practicing it in liberty. I usually approach it this way myself, but it's not always necessary. I always look at what my horse needs at that moment. Sometimes there's room to spontaneously teach a new exercise, even directly in liberty. Other days requires simplicity, calm, or repetition. This also requires me to maintain an open mindset, not just sending signals, but also receiving, and being willing to act on the information the horse gives me, even if that means adjusting my plan. During training, I regularly ask myself a number of questions. Do they understand what I mean? How is our mutual connection? How motivated are they today, or are they easily distracted? How is their attention span? Are they physically and mentally okay, or do they need something from me? The same applies to me. It's very important that I continuously reflect on my own state. After a long day, my mind can be full and I can be more tired than usual. On such days, asking too much from both myself and the horse usually doesn't work well. There are also days when things don't go as I hoped, and that's okay. For me, that's not a failure, but it's information. A signal to slow down, simplify, or sometimes just stop. That's why I try to prevent frustration and negative situations as much as possible by constantly observing and feeling what's happening between me and the horse. Sometimes there are days when I have no specific exercise planned, but when things go well, there's space to take up a new exercise on the spot. And sometimes no groundwork is needed at all, and it works surprisingly well directly in Liberty. For me, training with horses is ultimately not about performance, but about listening, attuning, and growing together in the moment. I made this video to give you my first introduction to my training style. This also forms a foundation for the upcoming videos I'll make for you, and I hope you found it interesting to watch and listen to. If you'd like to support my work and videos, a like or comment is greatly appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching.